So I want to talk about IDFA and what is it and why is Facebook so angry about it. So last year, Apple announced that they were essentially to make it so that users could opt out of essentially advertising tracking. So I think everybody's kind of familiar with when you go to, let's say, Google and you search for a certain product or something like that, and then you'll go on to subsequent news websites and stuff like that, and then you'll see an ad for what you were just looking at, and you're like, how did they do that? Well, the way they're able to do that is with cookies, and they're able to essentially through little tricks and stuff like that, they're able to track the user with cookies, so that when users are going to different sites, even though they're going to a different site with a different domain, they still know who the user is because maybe there's like an image URL or something like that's being shared, and that's how these advertising networks are able to track and make sure that when somebody starts a campaign that they're able to get a conversion, in other words, a sale out of that campaign. So they're doing something similar to that on mobile applications. So if you're using the Android operating system or you're using iOS, specifically on iOS, there's something called IDFA. And what the IDFA is it's a unique ID for the device. So if somebody goes and they see an advertisement for an app, and then they install that app, and once they go to run that app, that other app is able to essentially have the same ID, and it's able to let the advertising application know that a user has actually downloaded and installed the application on their device. So once again, this is very similar to what Google is doing with the browser and cookies with the different advertising networks. The advertising networks are able to do essentially the same thing, but using this unique ID that's a device-specific ID for iOS. There's something very similar on Android, I think, called the GID or something like that. So what I want to do tonight is kind of show what you have to do if you want to be able to use this ID, what you're going to have to do, and what does it mean for the end users. So let's take a quick look at a very simple project that I created. So if we look over here, we can see I have a very simple Swift UI app. And in the Swift UI app, one of the things I have done is I have this IDFA that I am getting from the AS identifier manager.shared.advertising identifier. So right now, this actually works in iOS 14.4 and earlier. Forget exactly how far back it goes, but right now you can run this code and you won't have a problem. So let me go ahead and try running this right now on this iPod Touch. And while that's starting up, I want to talk real quickly about what's happening with iOS 14.5, which should be coming out here in a couple of days. So I am not seeing anything yet. I wonder if this isn't rendered yet. Yeah, there we go. So if you look right here, you can see that there's this 32 character ID that's showing up here. And right now, this is coming back 0. And the main reason for that is because this is on the simulator. But if I was running this on the device, and I say I was running iOS 14.5 or later, you also would get a series of zeros when you try to run this. So if you want to be able to use this, what you're going to have to do is if you come to the info plist, I'm just going to come here to the project settings and go to info, we can see that there is a new privacy tracking usage description. And what you're going to have to do is put a description here, and what will happen is when the user goes to run this, and they're running, let's say, iOS 14.5 or later, they will get prompted with saying, hey, this application wants to use tracking. Do you want to allow this? And so the thinking here is that, and I would tend to agree with this, is that when a user gets prompted for whether or not they want to be tracked, they're going to say no, right? And this is one of the reasons why Facebook is angry about this, because Facebook, the way they make a lot of their revenue now is when you go through and use the feed inside of the Facebook app, it's going to have little advertisements for different apps that you can install and run. And the way that Facebook gets paid is that when somebody taps on one of those ads and then it opens up the or installs the application on their device, they're able to see that that user has actually followed through with the ad and actually installed the application and is using the application on the app. So Facebook claims that this is going to cut down 50% in their revenue, and it could be true. I don't know, but I think the key thing here is that users don't want to be tracked, and Apple has made kind of a concession with a framework called the SkAdNetwork, it's actually called the SkAdNetwork is the name of the class. And so what they're going to be doing is they're going to be setting it up so that let's say you do have an ad that you're going to be running inside of your application, and you want to see if there's actually a conversion going on. What they're going to do is they're actually going to have this framework that you can use inside of iOS, and what you have to do as an advertiser is you actually have to register your ad network and basically put in a URL that can be used as a callback, so that once a user has actually gone and installed an application and they want to see it, there's a method that newly installed app can call to let the ad network know that that this application's actually been converted, or the advertisement is actually been converted into an actual application on the user's device. Now the key thing there is this user is not contacting the advertiser directly. They're actually just calling a method inside of Apple's framework. And then what happens is Apple will contact the ad network and let them know that X number of applications have been converted from a specific campaign. And you can run up to like about 100 campaigns using this framework. So this is probably not going to satisfy a lot of advertisers, and so one of the workarounds that they're most likely going to use is use a different type of identifier to identify the user. So one of the things they might do is, let's say, use a user's email address. So if in the application, if the users actually use their email address as their identifier in the application, then they could use that as another way of being able to verify if that campaign was successful. So I hope this gives you a quick overview of what the IDFA is, what the problem is with Apple essentially asking permission to be able to use it. I'm personally kind of happy about it because as a user, I don't want to be tracked, but I can see the issue that's causing for advertisers. So hopefully this will give you a little more information about what all the kerfuffle is. There's going to be, I think, a lot of news stories coming out in the next couple of days, because once Apple releases the 14.5 update, this is when it's going to start causing a lot of problems for some of the advertisers. So if you like this video, you want to see more content like this, please give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, you can give it a thumbs down, but please just give it a thumbs up. And please subscribe to my channel so I can keep on doing more videos like this. It helps with YouTube's algorithms. And I also have a link in the notes for this to a blog post I wrote talking about some of the specifics. And I'll have some links in that blog post on where you can go to find out where you can use the SkAdNetwork. So with that, have a nice day.